Thank you all for joining this month's district membership chair call. We certainly think these are valuable times for us to be able to get together, and we try to have a topic that we think is of interest to you that we cover, we present, that you might think of as a booster shot in terms of an important DMC topic. This month we're going to be talking about creating culture change in our clubs. Really, really important topic. You know, all of us, you at the district level, the Rotary coordinator team across the zone, we all teach skills and tactics and strategies to club leaders, and then sometimes they go back to their clubs and the culture just overwhelms them. So creating a change in the culture, one that is accepting and is moving ahead for positive change toward membership. It could be anything, but we tend to focus on membership mostly. Is a really important topic. So Terry and Weaver and I are going to present a session for you that generally we present to clubs. One or two of you may have seen parts of this before. And you are going to get to participate today as if you were a club leader. So we'll get to hear your ideas as well. It will be interactive. And we hope that this will be useful to you in terms of modeling what this kind of instruction looks like, and that you'll know that we can make this available to your district, or even in some cases specifically to clubs, because we really do think that being able to change the direction, the culture, the approach of clubs on membership is essential to our overall success. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Terry Weaver to get us kicked off. And it's all yours, Terry.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm starting today with an assumption, and that's that you've printed the Changing Club Culture worksheet and have it in front of you. You'll be building a club culture change plan from that worksheet this afternoon. Now, not to worry if you didn't get that done. You can also use a blank sheet of paper to do this. It's not that hard. So I've been invited today to speak about what I believe may be our biggest challenge in Rotary, which is changing the culture of Rotary. And that means changing the culture of Rotary clubs, 36,000 of them, one at a time, from business as usual to business of the future. Now, I'm asking your indulgence today to understand that we're talking about strategies to change the culture of any organization. You can use this elsewhere, but we're using examples about membership in the case of Rotary, which is probably, arguably, the culture that needs the most rework in most clubs. So I'm inviting you to expand your thinking to include these ideas that as they could be applied to anything in your life, your family, your business. And basically, hopefully this is part of the value added of your Rotary membership. At least you'll see it that way today. In traveling my own district and now traveling the East Coast of Rotary, I've learned that there are two things Rotarians don't like. And the first is the way things are. I don't like the meals. I don't like the president. I don't like the programs. I don't like the meeting place. You've heard all this. But the other thing is that really rocks them to the core, that Rotarians really absolutely hate, is when anything changes. So what we have is this challenge with anything we want to do to make a club different, hopefully for the better, is we have to change a culture before we can change the result. So I wanted to show you a little video that you've seen before, just as a reminder. This is by Darren Hardy, who's a life coach and motivational speaker. And I love watching it, so we're going to spend a minute doing that.
To achieve what you have not, you must become what you are not. You have to grow into your goals. Look, if you're struggling to achieve your goals, it's because your goals are above your head. I'm sorry to say, but your goals are too big for you. You keep bludgeoning your head against the wall, but it's not going to help. The only way to achieve goals bigger than you've been able to achieve before is to become more than you've ever been before.
So that's the message we need to take to our clubs. The only way to achieve goals bigger than you've been able to achieve before is to become more than you've ever been before. Now, my interpretation of that is we have to acquire some skills and we have to acquire some strategies that are different from the ones that haven't worked in the past. So everybody finishes up any kind of workshop or seminar or RLI or whatever with the burning question of how will I take this back to my club? And actually this whole session was prompted by that response on an evaluation at the end of a membership summit up in another district. How will I take this back to my club was exactly the question that one of the participants wrote down on their eval after 5.5 hours of ideas and basically things they would like to do, but they just couldn't figure out how they're going to integrate that. See, the situation is this. Everybody's happy with the status quo. Everybody's okay with a net decline of a couple members a year. Nobody sees a problem with any of that. So you feel like you're all alone. Nobody gets it. And worse than that, humans have such an incredible facility for making excuses that they will rationalize pushing back against what you want to do simply because it keeps them in their comfort zone, which is the status quo. So in a Rotary Club, to make a difference, you have to first of all decide whether you want to be a change agent or not. I hope that's the case, and I'm assuming in the roles that all of you have chosen that you set out to be a change agent in your districts. We have to recognize that if we keep doing the same things we're doing, we're going to get more of the same results. And the intention here then is to change club culture. And in this example, change club culture with respect to membership growth and membership retention. But here's the problem. The problem is you can't change culture directly. Culture is an intangible. You can't get your arms around it, and you can't just wrench it from one side of the room to the other. What you have to do is you have to change the strategies from strategies that haven't worked to strategies likely to get us the results that we want. And then change the behaviors in response to those strategies and accomplish some short-term wins along the way to basically reinforce all that. And then third, reinforce the new strategies with those behaviors that culture will follow. So to change culture, the important thing is to change strategies and then get people to behave in a different way. Essentially get the club to change its habits. Now, I didn't think this stuff up by myself, and for some of you, this is not the first time you've seen this, but we sort of operationalized it into the recipe that you have in your hands. Something that we believe an average club could follow the numbers and do it according to the recipe. Now, like any recipe, if you decide to substitute something, or if you decide to leave a couple steps out, you may get a different result. But I really do believe this will work because I've used it, I've done it, and I've seen it work in not only Rotary, but also business organizations. So the first element in changing club culture is changing the bar. Redefine what good is. Consistent, moderate membership growth, and if necessary, create a crisis. If we had a crisis starts with if we keep doing what we're doing and finishes up with we're not going to like the results. Now, all of you know that in at least a third of your Rotary clubs, in some cases half of your Rotary clubs in your district, no one has to create a crisis. They've got one already. The thing about that is to get the club to understand that they literally are on a crisis path to a not good end. Cotter suggests you've got to do whatever you have to do to make the culture change that you're proposing an urgent priority. So what I'd like to do on your worksheet in the first section, page 2, what I'd like you to do is redefine your new bar. Now, let me be clear. A bar has a metric. A bar has a height and a metric, and that's a number. So in resetting your bar, what you want to do is not describe the problem, not describe what you're going to do about it, simply describe where you are going to be. So resetting your bar is, our club needs to move from losing an average of 2 members a year to gaining an average of 2 members a year. So I'll take a minute here, let you cook up your reset the bar statement. Now, you're welcome to use something other than membership as an example, if that's not close to your heart today. But let's try to stick with this membership idea and see if we can sort of practice together how you would help a club reset the bar and redefine what good is in their club. So I'll give you about a minute to jot that down. Okay. I'm going to hand it off to Patrick Eakes.
Thank you, Terry. And as Terry said, remember what we're doing here is we're redefining good for our club. We're resetting that bar. We want something that is measurable, something that you can measure against, you can tell your progress. So who would like to share how you have reset the bar for your club? You can hit your space bar and unmute. Bob, go ahead.
Well, this is something that I've given thought about ever since Terry produced that first MGI. That was a big eye opener for me, because I was membership chair with the Cary Rotary Club, and we had 12 to 14 to 16 new members coming in, and boy, we thought we were, whoa, look at us. But I found out we were losing an equal amount, and our net growth was like zero. So I would, at least for the Cary Club, I'm going to propose that we go from a zero net growth to a +5 based on a 3-year average, which will take us maybe 3 years to get to a +5, but that would be a major change for them.
Okay, so that's a tangible goal. That is reset the goal from basically barely getting by, maintaining, to +5 each year. And then you'll be able to go into how you do that, but you have to redefine what good looks like. Thank you, Bob. Anybody else like to share what good is going to look like now in your club? Philip? Hit space bar to unmute.
There you go. I was going to say, I find mine as a percentage. I set a 5% net membership growth per year.
Sure. And then you can translate what that looks like. The good thing is that compounds, right?
Right.
That's right. Thank you. Anyone else before we move to the next section?
I would like to transform our membership from the traditional member to kind of a regular membership to include other types such as corporate, family, passport, service, and things along those lines. So, there's several different criteria that I would like to add to our bylaws as membership.
Sure. And it sounds like you would need to change those bylaws to be able to make that happen. And then I might suggest that you add to that, step 1, change the bylaws. Step 2 is after year 1, we have added X number of those creative, innovative types of members to be able to measure that. I think that was Sue. I think you took a break from baking cakes. Okay.
I can multitask.
I can see that. Thank you. That's great. That's a great quality in the DMC. Okay, thank you all for participating in that exercise. So after we reset the bar, we have to do an honest assessment. We have to be real straight and assess where our clubs are. Now, most of you are, as DMCs, I'm sure you're aware of the club health check that Rotary provides. And this is a good tool that Rotary provides. It's ready to go. Any club can take that health check and get a good assessment of their club. There are other methods that you can use. There's where you can find the health check, and Terry's created a tiny URL to make it easy to get to it. There are other things that you can do that are part of your assessment plan. Member surveys that you create. We think about exit surveys sometimes for members that are leaving as a good source of information. Often we miss, for instance, an entrance survey about why somebody joined your club. What was attractive? What was the tipping point? What in the value equation made sense? Club assemblies where you can get everybody together to have a facilitated conversation. But in some form, you have to be able to assess where you are today so that you then can map the plan to get to what your new good is. My voice cracked there, to get to what your new good is. So I want you to take 60, 90 seconds and write down the assessment plan for your club, specifically the steps that you're going to take in your club to get a nice, sober, realistic assessment of where your club is. Okay, someone please hit the space bar and share with us what your assessment plan looks like.
So I hate to be overachiever, if you will, but I actually I'm working with my district membership team on creating a survey that will go out to the entire membership in District 7600. And this survey was really caused by the membership growth index that we received from the zone and our realization that we're basically in the last place in zone 33 as far as losing members. So we've created a 10-question survey, very simple, and we plan to kind of assess the health of the whole district. And hopefully this will encourage clubs to do their own health assessment in the same way.
Any chance that your survey will have the ability for someone to report the club he or she is from, where you'd be able to break it down by club?
Yes, that is one of the questions. The survey is anonymous, but one of the questions is what club they belong to. And so we'll be able to break it down by the club for sure.
Great. So you'll be able to get data for the entire district. And I'm sure many clubs just from that would see it and recognize some of that assessment. But it'll be valuable to the clubs to have people who participate to get that feedback. So thank you, Sue. Bob, I think you were starting to speak.
Echoing what Sue has said there, I know the Cary Club this past year, I wasn't involved at the time because I was no longer a chair, but they've done some surveying. So my first action step would be to review the survey that they've already done and see where they think they are. And again, my parallel track is whatever I'm doing or encouraging them to do, we're going to offer that here to membership chairs within our district.
Thank you. Well, that will be helpful to see what the update is and the responses. Anybody else like to share any of the steps on your assessment plan?
Yeah.
Patrick,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay, I would do, again, a member satisfaction survey. I know that we have talked about it at different times within the district, and the message I've tried to get across to each club as they do one is after you do the satisfaction survey, make some changes and let people know that you're making changes based upon what they gave you as feedback. Because there's nothing more frustrating than filling out a survey and taking your time to do that, and then it turns out that it's completely ignored.
Yeah, one, you don't get the results. Two, it's ignored, no action, waste of time, right? It's more frustrating than if you hadn't been asked in the first place. So thank you. And Carol, you were about to say.
Patrick, this is one of my favorite tools. And so in my monthly newsletter message, I told the clubs about it. I said that you can find out what you're doing well, where you might be stale, and where you stink. And then ask them if their club was interested in doing the club health check, that I would facilitate that via Zoom for any of the clubs in the entire district, because I think this is such a great tool, and it's a way for them to be able to take it, know where they are, know what they need to do, and be able to change the behaviors that Terry was just talking about.
So Carol, when I said an honest, sober assessment, you got real serious about that. Where you stink?
Yeah, really. Yeah, some clubs have a few things about them that stink, and so they need to be completely honest. And for some of the clubs, if it's a large club, obviously you would need to do it with just their board. But if it's a very small club, it's an opportunity to get involve more of the members. So I just thought it would be a great way for me to get engaged with them using a great tool.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you. And thank you all for sharing. That's part of the point of this. It's one of the ways that we're sharing among this peer group. So the next step, you've redefined good. You've reset the bar, that is. You have done an assessment, is you need to create a coalition. You're not going to be able to push the rock up the hill by yourself. So getting the buy-in of a coalition, hopefully people who are influential within a club, is going to be important. And that's going to mean talking and listening with them and coalescing around the steps they're going to be taken, and before that even the agreement on the need for change to make things happen. So creating a coalition is going to be important. I'm not going to ask you to chime in on who your coalition is. I won't make you out those folks here on this call, but in a club exercise, we would ask you to go ahead and write down who are you going to go to as members of your coalition so that you are building this plan as we work our way through the call. So you can do that if you would like, but as I said, I won't ask you to pop those names out in live time. Terry, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you, Patrick. And personally, I believe this create a coalition thing is maybe the biggest takeaway of all from this Cotter material. How many times have you seen, particularly an inexperienced leader, president perhaps with not a lot of business experience and not much Rotary experience, come back from a training session all excited about something, drop into the next board meeting and dump it on the table in front of the board and just get chewed up like a buzzsaw by the elder naysayers? It's absolutely essential to pre-sell any meaningful change that you're trying to make in a club. The next thing then is create a vision. And Cotter says in the book, people underestimate the power of a vision, and more importantly, underestimate the vacuum that's created when there isn't one. So let's talk about vision for a minute. Here's what an effective vision looks like. Again, I didn't figure this out for myself. This is right out of Cotter's book. It's a picture of the future, almost a word picture. It's imaginable, it's desirable, it sounds good and feels good. And it's feasible. It's something people can actually believe they can do. It's really focused. It guides the decision making. And, you know, visions are a little bit like corporate taglines. For example, Walmart. You know, Walmart is the low-priced leader. That drives everything they do. So it's focused. It guides decision making. It's flexible enough to allow some initiative. A vision doesn't have anything to do with how. A vision has to do with what we're going to accomplish. And it can be successfully explained in 5 minutes. Now, most of you know that when I'm not doing Rotary or grandkids, I have this little encore career as a part-time business coach. And when I work with small businesses, I often get asked to help with an incentive comp plan. Now, you're familiar with those. How many people, just quick show of hands, anybody ever been on an incentive comp plan? You do A, I'll pay you B, right? Okay, you understand that. My litmus test to a business owner for an incentive comp plan is the 1 martini rule. And the 1 martini rule is this: it has to be a simple enough plan that the employee can explain it to the spouse over no more than 1 martini. So keep that one in mind. Here are some ideas for visions, maybe more from the corporate world than anything else. Here's one. Our goal is to reduce our mean time to repair parameters so they're perceptually lower than all major competitors inside the United States and out. In a similar vein, we have targeted new product development cycle times, order process times, and other customer relevant processes for change. Everybody on board? This is a classic corp speak. This probably took the better part of 6 or 8 hours of meetings to parse this all together and get all these corporate buzzwords in here. And essentially, it says almost nothing as far as something people can get behind. Here's another version of exactly the same thing, but stated really as a qualifying vision. We're going to become faster than anyone in our industry at satisfying customer needs. Now, I was part of a Fortune 1000 company once upon a time. I was with them for the better part of 20 years, and during most of that time, the corporate tagline and the corporate vision were one and the same: excellence and customer satisfaction. Excellence and customer satisfaction. That was the whole thing. And that guided the decision-making of the organization. So here's one of my personal favorites of all time, maybe the best vision ever, in my opinion. John Kennedy said to a joint session of Congress, "I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth." A multi-billion-dollar program described in one sentence: landing a man on the moon, returning him safely to Earth. Now, he had pretty good vision of his own, and he also had pretty good speechwriters. But he could have said this: Our mission is to become the international leader in the space industry through maximum team-centered innovation and strategically targeted aerospace initiatives. I don't know if that would have galvanized a country in the 60s to achieve a moon landing. So here's a version of a Rotary Club vision. Our Rotary Club will continue its legacy of community service, utilizing our influential membership to assist agencies in our community to achieve their missions. Folks, I'd almost swear that this is the mission statement, a vision statement of some clubs. We're going to knock ourselves out doing 2 or 3 fundraisers a year. Then we're going to write some checks to some other organizations to further their missions and their brands. Not something that most members can really jump into, really get behind. What about something like this? Our Rotary Club will be the growing, effective, vibrant force in our community, making it a better place to live. Here's Rotary's new vision. And it has all these components. Everything Cotter described about a vision is rolled into this one sentence. Together, we see vision, a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. This is about us, and this is about what we're going to do. So turn to your worksheet. Now, the answers are in the back of the book. There are some club membership related visions on page 4 of your worksheet. You feel free to lift anything out of that you want, or use your own blank sheet of paper to come up with your vision. But again, what we're talking about here is a vision statement for your club. There's nothing in the vision statement about how you're going to do it. There's nothing in the vision statement about how you're going to do it. It is essentially putting some meat around that reset the bar, and what is this thing going to look like when it's running the way we want it to. So it'll take about a minute. You'll have an opportunity to complete your vision and jot down, again, where you want to be. Nothing about how you're going to get there, nothing about the strategies, nothing about where you came from, nothing about what you want to change, simply a vision of where you want to be. Okay, if you're not finished yet, continue writing. Anybody who is, would you be willing to share your vision statement with us? Just press your space bar to unmute or use your mouse. Who has a vision statement? Yes.
I will share. Mine might be a little off base from what you asked for, but to attain consistent yearly growth through a strong community presence that acts as a natural attractant.
Okay. The first part of it was a vision. The last part of it was a strategy. So just carve off the end. You're golden.
Edit, in other words.
There you are. Sometimes less is more. Somebody else have a vision for a change that they'd like to accomplish in their club or your district? Either one.
Terry, I would like to share. I see a club where members are engaged in service and willing to tell their Rotary story.
Great. Engaged in service, willing to tell their Rotary story. Someone else have a vision you'll share with us.
I'll give you what I was playing around here with. I see a platform for motivated individuals who want to make a difference in the community and in the world. Because we talk a lot about people reaching a point in their stage of life where they want to be a contributor and they can't do it by themselves. And we talk about how we can provide the platform for them to do that. So I see most clubs, if they could see themselves as a platform that facilitates what people are already motivated to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that'd start out with I see our club being, right? Let's talk about communication. To communicate a vision effectively, you got to put the pieces together. You can't just drop the vision out there on people. You got to kind of work up to it. And here's an approach that works. The acronym is SPIN, S-P-I-N, and this is a way to build a script. Now, I wouldn't ask any of you to ever do anything I wouldn't do, but I can tell you that I use this thing all the time. Anytime anytime I'm going into a meaningful conversation about anything, I take out a blank sheet of paper and I write S, P, I, and N down the margin. Now, what does that mean? S stands for situation, just explaining the current facts. Our club is losing an average net of 2 members a year. No argument, just fact. The problem. The problem with that is, and that's probably a good way to state the problem. Now, you don't have to say situation, you can simply explain the current facts, but then you put a paragraph mark in there and you say the problem with that is, and then explain why that's not a good thing. Then there's the implication, which is a little different than the problem. The implication is the what if. The implication is what that means. If we don't do something different, here's where we're going to be.
Patrick.
And then finally, the need. Now, the need is, of course, what you're proposing to do. The need is essentially captured in your vision of what you want the club to become or what you want the club to accomplish. So it's situation, problem, implication, need. It's an awesome, simple outline for anything where you're trying to not only move somebody's point of view, but also inspire them to actually do what you're suggesting. So here's a SPIN example. Situation. Our club's been on a steady downward membership trend, losing an average of 2 members a year for the past 5 years. The problem with that is the club's learned to accept membership decline as a natural occurrence and has forgotten that growth, not attrition, is the goal. The club has simply gotten used to the fact that it's a couple members smaller each year, and they're fine with that. The implication, if we stay on this track, we're going to find ourselves with steadily smaller meetings and finally potential members asking, is this really a group I want to be part of? Somebody comes to visit your club, looks around, there's 10 or 12 people in the room and says, I thought this was Rotary International. Where is everybody? Once we lose the ability to attract members, it's only a matter of time until we all age out together and the club goes out of business. Now, y'all have the benefit of your MGI reports. You can identify which clubs we're talking about here. You have clubs that are advancing median age literally 1 year per year, simply aging out together. Some of them with very low attrition because they haven't invited anybody to join in any time recent. So the need. The need is we need to help our members understand that growing the club is essential to our survival. That's another tie back to implication. We need to help them understand that attracting more members is in everyone's interest, including the new members. Rotary's a pretty good thing. Maybe we should share it with some other folks. And we need to provide a compelling vision of a growing, vibrant club and inspire our members to make it that way. Situation, problem, implication, need. So let's try that. Explain the current facts. The problem with that is the implication and the need. Let's give that a shot on your worksheet. On page 3, you've got all 4 sections of a SPIN script laid out. And again, it doesn't have to be a whole lot longer than what you've seen on screen here. 1 or 2 sentences in each category will work. So let's focus first on S, on situation. Let's describe the situation that you're trying to change. Now, in this case, we are talking about the current facts. Now, we're not talking about why that's a problem yet. We're simply talking about the facts are these. I'll give you a minute or so to jot those down. Okay, the situation, fairly easy to describe. The situation is the current facts of the matter. So who's got a situation description, just that section, that you're willing to share with us? What's a situation you'd like to change in your club?
Terry, I'll just recite what I said earlier, that we recognize that we're on a zero growth from year to year just because we're bringing in new members, and we weren't realizing that we're actually losing not growing because we weren't taking care of the attrition.
And Bob, that's a good idea to point out both things. We all know that we regularly bring new members into the club. What we forgot to notice was that we're losing about the same number. We have to step it up a notch, or we have to make the club more attractive for people to stick around. He's got another one.
I'd like to take it to the district level, and I guess the statement would be, we lost 160 net members last year.
Okay, that's a statement of fact. Our district is 160 Rotarians smaller than it was a year ago.
Terry, mine says club members come to meetings just to eat lunch. They are not knowledgeable or engaged with Rotary.
Our club members are not engaged. Okay. One more. Anybody else got a situation you're trying to change?
Yeah, very similar at the district level. Over the last 15 years, we've only had 2 years of growth.
2 out of 15.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Stan. Okay. Let's take a look at the problem. What is the problem with that situation? What is wrong with this picture? What is the problem with zero growth? Losing the same number of members that you attract. What's the problem with non-engaged members? What's the problem with 13 out of 15 net loss years? Jot that down in your problem section. Some of you may have already raced ahead. Give you a couple minutes about that. Okay. Now it can be somebody else that didn't report already. I'd like to hear your situation followed by your problem. Who's ready to go? Carol?
Terry, based on my situation, I see the problem is that these members don't stay in Rotary because it's not meaningful.
Excellent. That is exactly the problem with lack of engagement. Somebody else?
So Terry, I said with the problem stated as zero net growth, we're at risk of beginning a negative downward trend.
We don't have to falter very much before that unravels. And you know, that's something that you've probably most of you have heard me say this before. When I work with a small business of 25 employees, it's hardly any different than a Rotary Club of 25 members. And what I've learned is if you don't have a growth strategy for your business, you're going to shrink. If you don't have a growth strategy for your Rotary Club, you're going to shrink. Newton was right about two things, friction and gravity. And both of those things will reduce Rotary membership and reduce sales revenue over time. Somebody else, a situation and a problem back to back.
So Jack.
Hey, Jack.
The situation is district lacks a membership importance and lack of membership chairs. I think
Okay.
that's our situation.
Lack of priority and lack of people in the seats in the clubs.
That's correct.
Yep. Okay, somebody else.
Terry, I'll weigh in here with one that I think right now is a real problem. Now, I wrote this in terms of my club. We are now declining in membership after consistently growing. And with COVID-19, we are unorganized in terms of how we want to go forward. I think that's a real problem for many clubs.
We've unraveled a little bit.
Yeah, and the problem, we'll lose energy, momentum, and effectiveness.
Absolutely. And you're watching it happen, right? Yeah. Okay, you're getting the idea. You're doing great. Implication. We talked about the situation. We talked about the problem, the implication. This is the what if. if we don't do something different, or that means we will proceed to an end we're not happy with. What is the implication of your situation and your description of the problem? What if we don't do something about this? Stopping short of what we're going to do, what if we don't? Most of you have also heard me say that when something's not going well in an organization, when an organization is failing, there's really only one of three reasons. They don't get it, they don't care, or they don't know how. And this what if addresses they don't care. They just don't understand what the downside is. Okay. Start packaging this up. Situation, problem, implication. Who's got those three ready to go?
Well, the situation is that obviously they've been losing members, a club, and fewer members that are still involved in the club are less engaged. So the problem is the club becomes smaller and it decreases its engagement and benefit to the community as well as engagement for members. And the implication is they become invisible, they become ineffective, and in essence, they are losing their ability to stand and attract.
They're at risk of losing critical mass, if not already happened.
Right, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So wrap it up, finish off your spin script with your statement of what you propose we do. Essentially, your vision statement actualized. Situation, problem, implication, need. Who's got one of those packaged up and ready to go?
Terry, I'll go. I was thinking here, just restating what I'd said earlier, using the redefine what's good and build on an assessment, create a coalition, and either dust off the vision or recreate it.
So what's your situation, problem, implication, and need?
Well, that was the zero growth. Problem being we're at risk of a negative downward trend. The implication is we'll lose our effectiveness, attractiveness, impact. And so the need is we need to do these 3 or 4 things.
We need to get on a growth strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else got one of those they want to share? A end-to-end spin script.
Yeah, this is Stan. Very similar. Losing members, the situation year over year, just a gentle decline into Never Never Land. The problem, can't find leadership. They skipped a fundraiser because they didn't have enough people.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough volunteers to man it. The implication, I just wrote the word poof because, as Sean said, it's just going to disappear. And what's needed is just really a basic growth plan and attention to that detail. I ask all my people, my membership advocates, and I put the AGs in there, is to always make sure that membership is talked about at every board meeting.
Top
and
of the list.
Even if you're a club less than 10, you need to have board meetings every month. You need at least 11 of them a year. You got to see where you're at, because if you don't go check with a board meeting, you skip a couple months and you could lose 2 or 3 more members.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to tag it back to Patrick Eakes to talk about the rest of the recipe.
Thank you, Terry. So we know how to reset the bar, take an honest assessment, build a coalition, create a vision, and build a script. So now, number 6 is, how do we teach our members in this case, to grow our club within the membership venue. Odds are they don't know how, because if they did, your club would be growing. You're gonna have to teach them. So what you want to do is put into practice what you've learned so far. You want to build a club experience that's attractive and irresistible. So that takes different strategies. And as you know, most of you have seen, we do a whole session on intentional strategies that are totally geared toward building membership. You need different behaviors to support those strategies. And then as you reinforce those behaviors and those strategies, the culture will follow, as we talked about at the top of the program. So on your worksheets for number 6, write down intentional strategies that your club will take, different behaviors to support those strategies, and how you're going to reinforce those behaviors. So go ahead and write down the teaching part on your worksheet.
That could include teaching members some scripts.
It could.
Teaching members some elevator speeches.
All right, who would like to report out on how you're going to teach your club members?
This is Jack.
Yes,
I
Jack.
think the things that I would do would be, first, build that plan with my coalition. Then we'd have positive reinforcement with all. And once the plan is there, we implement. And then we do a simple training method. We tell them, we show them, they do it, we reinforce.
There you go. Thank you, Jack. Anyone else like to share?
Yeah, this is Bob. I echo exactly what Jack said, and now I'm taking this up now to district level. We are doing a monthly Zoom call. Last month, we invited people to do a survey so we know what's on their mind. We're supplementing that with a short communique by email in between those calls. And then I think we've already gotten you, Patrick, on you and your team on the calendar for January. In the meantime, we're assembling a pretty rich toolbox. Thanks to our immediate past district governor, Marie. She started that. And with some of the things I'm learning on this call each month, we can direct them to that. So it's just a matter of finding what they want, what they're interested in working on, and then just resourcing them.
Thank you, Bob. And you give me a perfect lead into step 7, which is communicate, communicate, communicate. And once you think you've communicated enough, communicate some more. It's going to take a lot to penetrate a skull like mine and to get through to most Rotarians. And we're talking about communicating all the ways that you can communicate. So that's from the podium, that's in newsletters, in emails, one-on-one conversations, all the opportunities that you have to communicate to continue to communicate this vision. You have a spin script, you have that ready to go, you have that plan. Now, when I do sessions on leadership, often I lead from the top by saying communication is an essential part of leadership. You can be a great leader, and if you in other respects, and if you cannot communicate the vision, communicate the tools, teach through communication, you're probably not going to get where you want to go. So you've been equipped with several tools here. Please go ahead and write down in step 7 what your communication plan is that you're going to use. I'll give you about a minute for that.
Yeah, I'll go. This is Stan. Really, it's pretty much called out. The face-to-face is very important. Email as a backup so that people know what you're talking about. Our club uses a WhatsApp. Our younger people really like that, and I got used to it on mission trips. Just works really well for short impact messages. Always in print and bulletin where we can, it's always mentioned. Meetings, of course, but especially board meetings so that everybody is on board. In our club, the membership chair is responsible for a monthly report to the board, no matter what's going on. I've always liked that as an accountability standpoint, that if I've asked somebody to do a job, I need to respect them enough to ask them for the results of that job. And club assemblies, keep membership on top, and you'll be surprised that how well it works. I started this last year in my club, and we averaged 1 new member per month with a net of +10. So
thank you, Stan. I love that you started with the face-to-face, because that's probably your most effective one-on-one. We're looking at each other, we're hearing each other. A head nod, a yes, whatever it may be, creates that accountability. Love that. And you're
well,
right.
that was a given. You put it up front first on here, so I figured that was a given.
You gave the teacher an apple. Thank you. But you want to communicate and communicate and communicate until you penetrate their DNA with this message. I mean, that's really what you're going for. Step 8. Any of you ever work in a toxic environment or with a toxic employee? Someone who got in the way. Yeah, I see a few people who recognize, they resemble that remark. Well, our clubs have toxic members too. So in terms of talking to our clubs, again, in the role as a club leader, where I'm pitching this, and talking to your club members, you have to be prepared to deal with naysayers. Now, you hope that you can win them over. If you can't win them over, you hope you can at least neutralize them. Hey, this is where I think we need to go. Will you at least step aside and give me an opportunity to implement this? In some cases, you may have to move on. And I have seen clubs do that and go on to great things, because they, despite best efforts, despite applying the 4-way test, could not get past a naysayer who was simply going to ruin any effort toward progress and toward changing the culture of the club. You have to remember, as a leader, whether you're a club leader, a district leader, zone leader, whether you're a president, your responsibility is to the organization, not to that individual who is an obstacle. So take just 30 seconds to note who or maybe what your obstacles are in Section 8. I'm not going to have you report out on this, but consider that as part of your plan. All right, and then we're going to move on to step 9, which is to set up short-term wins. This is your opportunity to have a proof of concept, to build momentum, to get things going. Because as you know, all good ideas start small, they pick up momentum, they take on a life of their own, and then people want to hop on the train. So you want to set yourself up to have these short-term wins that will generate more confidence in the direction that you're leading your club. You can do this with your coalition. They can be a big part of helping you get this short-term win. You can do this if Discover Rotary Hour is one of the areas that you're going to really bring into play for your club. Some people who you know are ready to join Rotary, bring them to a Discover Rotary session. They join, your members see immediate results. There are lots of other ways you can do that. You want to be able to show that the direction you're going is the correct direction for anybody who's on the fence. So keep that in mind. You can put down some possible short-term wins there. Area 9, the last area on page 3. And as you do that, I just want to encourage you with all of these steps to keep your eyes on the ultimate goal, which is changing the culture. If you will work through these steps, and we have multiple examples of clubs that have done this, who have taken this to heart, who have used this recipe, who have worked their way through, who have amazing membership results to show for it. So thanks for your time, your attention. Thank you for sharing with your peer group here. And I am going to turn this back over to Terry.
Redefine what good is. where we've been is not good enough. Reset the bar. Figure out what actually needs changing. Now, here's the deal. If your club has a net steady decline in membership, it's not membership itself that's the problem. There is some degree of dysfunction underneath the covers that's causing that to happen. Figure out what that is. Create a coalition. Absolutely. Probably in my book, the #1 takeaway from this Cotter material, followed on perhaps close second by creating a vision that you can actually articulate. And it can be simple. The vision for my Rotary Club the year I was president and for my district the year I was governor was more Rotarians involved in more projects in more of the world. Dirt simple. Build a script. Use that spin algorithm and use it a lot. Use it in other parts of your life. Teach people how to do what you want them to do. In many cases, the reason adults don't succeed at doing something different is because they don't know how, but they won't tell you that. So don't assume anything. If you're asking for somebody to do something different, teach them how to do something different. Nothing wrong with telling an adult who doesn't know how to do something how to do it. Communication, communication, communication. Take whatever your plan was, amp it up by a factor of about 10, and you'll be right about on the money. And then confront those in the way if you have to. As Patrick suggested, if you can't win them over, say, Frank, we're probably not going to agree on this, but can I get your agreement that you will not undermine me here, that you'll stay out of my way? And then finally, the thing that seals this up is these short-term wins. Having 1 or 2 potential Rotarians already on the hook, ready to join your club before you roll out your membership plan. And then those become success stories. So thank you for your time and attention. We're honored by your giving us these moments. I'm hoping you can take these principles of organizational culture into other parts of your life, but more importantly, that you can be a more effective change agent.